Have you ever noticed that the women who leave the deepest impression are rarely the loudest in the room? They aren't chasing attention, forcing connections, or trying to become someone they're not. Instead, they possess something far more powerful, an authentic presence rooted in confidence, kindness, and self-respect. The truth is, genuine attraction isn't about perfection or manipulation. It's about the energy you bring into every conversation, every challenge, and every relationship. Today, we're going to explore 6 powerful principles that help you cultivate that kind of one that naturally draws people toward you because it reflects authenticity, purpose, and inner strength. One of the greatest misunderstandings about attraction is the belief that it begins with someone else noticing you. In reality, it begins much earlier. It begins the moment you decide how you will see yourself. Every decision you make, every boundary you set, every dream you pursue, and every standard you refuse to lower sends a message, not only to the world but also to your own mind. That message is either, I know my worth, or, my worth depends on what others think of me. The difference between those two beliefs changes everything. Many people spend years searching for acceptance. They adjust their personalities, hide their opinions, and sacrifice their happiness because they believe being liked is more important than being authentic. But approval is temporary. It comes and goes with opinions, circumstances, and changing expectations. Self-respect, on the other hand, creates a foundation that remains steady even when life becomes uncertain. When you respect yourself, you no longer need every person to understand you. You don't need to win every argument or convince everyone to stay. You recognize that your value is not something another person can give you or take away. Think about the people who naturally command respect. It is rarely because they are the loudest voice in the room, or because they constantly seek attention. Instead, they carry themselves with quiet confidence. They listen more than they speak. They remain calm under pressure. They make decisions based on their values, rather than fear. Their confidence doesn't come from proving they are enough. It comes from already believing they are enough. That belief changes how they walk, how they communicate, and how they respond to challenges. Self-respect also changes the choices you make in relationships. Instead of asking, how can I make this person like me? You begin asking a far more powerful question. Does this relationship allow me to become the best version of myself? That single shift transforms everything. It reminds you that healthy relationships are built on mutual appreciation, honesty, and trust, not on chasing validation or trying to earn love by abandoning who you are. There is a powerful difference between kindness and people-pleasing. Kindness comes from strength. It is freely given without expecting something in return. People-pleasing comes from fear, the fear of rejection, disappointment, or being alone. When fear controls your decisions, you slowly lose your sense of identity because your happiness becomes dependent on everyone else's approval. Self-respect breaks that cycle. It gives you permission to say no without guilt, to walk away from unhealthy situations, and to choose peace over constant conflict. The truth is that every boundary you set teaches people how to treat you. If you constantly ignore your own needs to satisfy everyone else, people begin to expect it. But when you communicate your values with calm confidence, you create relationships built on mutual respect instead of obligation. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are doors that allow the right people to come closer, while protecting you from relationships that diminish your peace. Another important lesson is that self-respect grows through the promises you keep to yourself. Every time you commit to learning a new skill, taking care of your health, finishing a difficult task, or standing by your principles, you strengthen your confidence. Confidence is not built by repeating positive words in front of a mirror. It is built by proving to yourself, day after day, that your actions align with your values. Small acts of discipline create lasting self-belief. People often think attraction comes from appearance alone, but appearance may capture attention for a moment, while character determines whether respect lasts. The qualities that truly leave a lasting impression are integrity, compassion, emotional stability, curiosity, and purpose. These qualities cannot be purchased, filtered, or imitated for long. They are developed through daily choices and consistent personal growth. When you stop measuring your value by comparison, something remarkable happens. You celebrate other people's success without feeling threatened. You stop competing for attention because you understand that your uniqueness is your greatest strength. You no longer waste energy pretending to be someone else because you recognize that Authenticity creates deeper and more meaningful connections than perfection ever could. The most powerful energy you can bring into any relationship is the quiet certainty that your surrounding already exists. You are not asking someone else to complete you. You are inviting them to walk beside you as two whole individuals growing together. That mindset changes the way you speak, the way you love, and the way you lead your life. Real attraction begins the moment you realize that the relationship you have with yourself becomes the standard for every relationship you build with others. When self-respect becomes your foundation, confidence becomes natural, peace becomes consistent, and the right connections become far more likely to grow. In a world that constantly rewards visibility, many people have started to believe that confidence must always be loud. Social media celebrates the biggest personalities, the boldest opinions, and the most dramatic entrances. It can make you think that if you are not constantly speaking, posting, or proving yourself, you are somehow invisible. But true confidence has never depended on volume. In fact, the strongest people in any room are often the ones who have nothing to prove. They don't seek attention because they are focused on something far more important. They know who they are. Quiet confidence begins with inner security. It is the ability to trust yourself without needing constant reassurance from other people. It is making decisions based on your values instead of chasing approval. When you know what you stand for, you don't feel pressured to explain every choice you make or defend every opinion you hold. You understand that not everyone has to agree with you for your path to be meaningful. That sense of certainty creates a calm presence that people naturally notice. Many people confuse confidence with arrogance, but the two could not be more different. Arrogance is often built on insecurity. It needs recognition, praise, and constant validation to survive. It wants to be seen as better than everyone else, because deep inside it fears not being enough. Confidence, however, has no interest in comparison. It doesn't need to win every conversation or dominate every room. It simply exists because it comes from self-awareness rather than superiority. Imagine two people walking into the same meeting. One spends the entire time trying to impress everyone. They interrupt conversations, talk about their achievements, and seek approval after every comment. The other person listens carefully, speaks thoughtfully, and contributes only when they have something meaningful to add. At first glance, the louder person may appear more confident, but over time, people begin to trust the quieter individual because their words carry weight. Their confidence comes from substance, not performance. This lesson applies to every area of life. Whether you are building a career, forming friendships, or developing a relationship, people remember those who make them feel respected. Quiet confidence creates space for others. It listens before responding. It asks thoughtful questions instead of assuming it already knows the answers. It understands that wisdom is not measured by how much you say, but by the value of what you choose to say. One of the greatest signs of quiet confidence is emotional control. Everyone experiences disappointment, criticism, and unexpected setbacks. The difference is how they respond. Someone who is controlled by emotion reacts immediately. They argue, complain, or seek revenge because they feel their identity has been threatened. A quietly confident person pauses. They reflect before speaking. They understand that one emotional moment should never determine a lifetime of consequences. Their calmness is not weakness. It is discipline. Think about the leaders who inspire loyalty. They don't panic during difficult moments. They remain steady when everyone else becomes overwhelmed. Their composure gives others confidence because calmness is contagious. When you remain grounded under pressure, you become a source of stability for those around you. That is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess, not because it draws attention, but because it builds trust. Quiet confidence also means accepting that you don't have all the answers. Secure people are willing to learn. They admit mistakes without feeling ashamed, because they understand that growth is more valuable than appearing perfect. Insecure people avoid admitting weakness because they believe mistakes reduce their value. Confident people know the opposite is true. Every lesson learned makes them stronger, wiser, and more capable. Another important aspect of quiet confidence is consistency. Anyone can appear confident for a few minutes. Real confidence is revealed over time. It shows up when you continue working toward your goals, even when nobody is watching. It appears when you keep your promises, honor your values, and treat people with respect regardless of their status. Character is built in private long before it is recognized in public. There will always be people who misunderstand your calm nature. Some may mistake silence for weakness or humility for uncertainty. But remember this, you do not need to become louder to prove your strength. The tallest tree in the forest does not announce its height. It simply continues to grow. In the same way, genuine confidence is not about demanding recognition. It is about becoming someone whose actions speak louder than words ever could. When your confidence comes from within, you stop living for applause. You no longer measure your worth by compliments, attention, or temporary success. Instead, you measure it by your integrity, your resilience, and your commitment to becoming a better person every day. That kind of confidence cannot be taken away because it was never given by others in the first place. It is earned through self-respect, strengthened through experience, and revealed through quiet, consistent action. And in the end, the people who leave the greatest impact are rarely those who shouted the loudest. They are the ones whose calm confidence inspired others to believe in themselves as well. One of the greatest gifts you can develop is the ability to truly understand people. Not to manipulate them, not to control them, but to connect with them on a deeper level. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, very few people have learned the art of listening. Most conversations are filled with people waiting for their turn to speak, rather than genuinely trying to understand. Yet the strongest relationships are not built by those who speak the most. They are built by those who make others feel seen, valued, and understood. That is the essence of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. Before you can understand someone else's emotions, you must first recognize your own. Every emotion carries a message. Anger may reveal that a boundary has been crossed. Fear may remind you that you are stepping into unfamiliar territory. Sadness may point to something meaningful that has been lost. Instead of ignoring these emotions or allowing them to control your behavior, emotionally, intelligent people pause long enough to understand what those feelings are trying to teach. Many people believe strength means never showing emotion. They think being calm means pretending nothing hurts. But true strength is not emotional suppression. It is emotional mastery. It is the ability to experience disappointment without becoming bitter, to face criticism without losing confidence, and to encounter conflict without abandoning kindness. Emotional maturity is not about feeling less. It is about responding with wisdom rather than reacting with impulse. Think about the conversations that have changed your life. Chances are, they were not with someone who gave the perfect speech. They were with someone who listened without interrupting, who asked thoughtful questions, and who made you feel safe enough to be honest. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It comes from genuine curiosity about another person's experience. People rarely remember every word you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. One of the greatest mistakes people make in relationships is assuming they already know what the other person is thinking. They jump to conclusions, create stories in their minds, and react before seeking understanding. Emotional intelligence teaches a different approach. It encourages you to replace assumptions with questions and judgment with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why would they do that?" ask, "What might they be experiencing that I don't yet understand?" That single shift has the power to transform conflict into conversation. Empathy is one of the most valuable expressions of emotional intelligence. Empathy does not mean agreeing with every decision someone makes. It means making the effort to understand their perspective, even when it differs from your own. When people feel understood, their defenses begin to lower. Trust grows because they recognize that they are being treated with dignity rather than under criticism. Every meaningful relationship, whether between friends, family members, colleagues, or partners, depends on this ability to see beyond your own point of view. Communication is another reflection of emotional intelligence. Words have the power to heal or to harm. Speaking honestly while remaining respectful requires wisdom and discipline. It is easy to respond with anger when emotions are high. It is much harder to choose patience, clarity, and compassion. Yet those moments define the quality of our relationships. Strong communicators do not speak simply to win arguments. They speak to build understanding. They know that protecting a relationship is often more important than proving a point. Emotional intelligence also means recognizing that every person carries invisible battles. The smile you see may hide anxiety. The confidence you admire may have been built through years of struggle. The kindness someone offers may come from pain they have chosen not to pass on to others. When you remember that everyone has a story you cannot fully see, compassion becomes easier. You become slower to judge and quicker to extend grace. Another important lesson is learning to manage your emotional reactions during difficult moments. Life will disappoint you. People will misunderstand you. Plans will fail. Expectations will be broken. Emotional intelligence does not prevent these experiences from happening. It changes how you respond to them. Instead of allowing frustration to control your decisions, you learn to pause, reflect, and choose a response that aligns with your values. That pause often becomes the difference between damaging a relationship and strengthening. It's the people who create the deepest connections are not necessarily the smartest, the most successful, or the most charismatic. They are the ones who consistently make others feel respected. They celebrate without jealousy, encourage without expecting recognition, forgive without holding on to resentment, and listen without rushing to offer solutions. Their presence becomes a place where others feel accepted rather than evaluated. In the end, emotional intelligence is not simply a skill that improves relationships with others. It transforms the relationship you have with yourself. It teaches you to understand your emotions without being controlled by them, to face challenges without losing your character, and to build connections based on trust instead of appearance. When people experience someone who is emotionally mature, they don't just admire that person, they feel safe around them. And there is no greater foundation for lasting respect, meaningful connection, and genuine traction than creating an environment where people know they can be fully themselves without fear of judgment. That quiet ability to understand, to listen, and to respond with wisdom is what leaves a lasting impression long after the conversation has ended. There is something deeply compelling about a person who wakes up every morning with a reason to grow. It is not because they have all the answers or because their life is perfect. It is because they have direction. They know that every day is an opportunity to become a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little closer to the person they were created to be. That sense of purpose is far more attractive than the pursuit of perfection, because purpose gives your life meaning, while perfection only creates pressure. Many people spend years trying to become the version of themselves they believe others will admire. They chase impossible standards, compare themselves to carefully edited images, and constantly wonder if they are enough. The problem with perfection is that it keeps moving. The moment you reach one goal, another expectation appears. You begin living on a treadmill where no amount of achievement ever feels satisfying. Purpose offers a different path. Instead of asking, "How can I appear perfect?" it asks, "How can I make today meaningful?" Think about the people who inspire you the most. Chances are, they are not flawless. They have made mistakes. They have faced rejection. They have experienced failure. Yet they continue moving forward because they are driven by something greater than the fear of not. Their passion gives them resilience. Their mission gives them courage. Their purpose allows them to keep going when circumstances become difficult. Purpose also changes the energy you bring into every relationship. When your entire identity depends on another person's attention or approval, every disagreement feels like a threat. Every moment of distance creates anxiety. Every criticism feels personal. But when your life is built around meaningful goals, healthy values, and continuous growth, you bring completeness into relationships instead of expecting someone else to complete you. You are no longer searching for someone to give your life meaning because you are already living with intention. One of the greatest misunderstandings about attraction is the belief that it comes from appearance alone. While appearance may create a first impression, purpose creates lasting admiration. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are passionate about something meaningful. Whether it is building a career, serving their community, learning new skills, creating art, raising a family with love, or pursuing personal growth, purpose creates enthusiasm that cannot be manufactured. Passion is contagious because it reveals a person who is fully engaged with life. Purpose also transforms the way you respond to obstacles. Without purpose, challenges often feel like reasons to quit. Every setback becomes proof that you are not good enough. Every failure becomes a reason to doubt yourself. But when your purpose is clear, obstacles become lessons rather than endings. You begin asking, "What can this experience teach me?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" That simple change in perspective creates resilience, and resilience is one of the most admirable qualities a person can possess. It is important to understand that purpose does not always begin with a grand vision. Sometimes it starts with small, consistent decisions. Choosing to read instead of endlessly scrolling through distractions. Taking care of your health because you value your future. Learning a new skill that expands your abilities. Helping someone who needs encouragement. Keeping promises you make to yourself. These small choices may seem ordinary, but over time they shape extraordinary character. Purpose grows through daily discipline, not occasional inspiration. Another powerful truth is that purpose protects you from comparison. When you are focused on your own journey, you spend less time measuring your progress against someone else's success. You celebrate other people's achievements because you understand that their path does not diminish your own. Comparison steals joy because it shifts your attention away from your unique gifts. Purpose restores joy because it reminds you that your mission is not to become someone else. It is to become the best version of yourself. Purpose also influences the way people experience your presence. Individuals who live with direction often radiate optimism even during difficult seasons. They are not optimistic because life is easy. They are optimistic because they believe their struggles have meaning. They understand that every challenge develops patience, wisdom, humility, and strength. Instead of allowing hardship to define them, they allow it to refine them. This mindset inspires confidence in others because it demonstrates that hope can exist even for an uncertainty. The most meaningful relationships are built between two people who encourage each other's growth rather than limit each other's potential. When you have purpose, you naturally support the dreams of those around you because you understand the value of becoming your best self. Healthy relationships are partnerships where both individuals continue learning, improving, and inspiring one another. Growth becomes a shared journey instead of a competition. At the end of the day, people rarely remember those who appeared perfect. They remember those who lived with conviction, treated others with kindness, remained faithful to their values, and pursued a life that mattered. Perfection creates distance because it feels impossible to relate to. Purpose creates connection because it reminds everyone that growth is a lifelong journey. You do not have to be flawless to make an impact. You simply need to wake up each day with the courage to move one step closer to the person you are capable of becoming. That quiet commitment to meaningful living is what gives your life depth, strengthens your relationships, and creates an influence that lasts far beyond first impressions. One of the clearest signs of inner strength is the ability to establish healthy boundaries. Many people misunderstand boundaries because they associate them with distance, rejection, or selfishness. In reality, healthy boundaries are an expression of self-respect and respect for others. They communicate what you value, what you are willing to accept, and how you expect to be treated. Without boundaries, relationships often become confusing, unbalanced, and emotionally exhausting. With boundaries, relationships have the opportunity to grow in honesty, trust, and mutual appreciation. From an early age, many people are taught that saying yes makes them kind, and saying no makes them difficult. As a result, they spend years putting everyone else's needs ahead of their own. They agree to commitments they cannot fulfill, tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, and silence their own opinions because they fear disappointing others. At first, this may seem like generosity, but over time it leads to frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Every time you ignore your own values simply to keep someone else happy, you slowly teach yourself that your own needs matter less than everyone else's. Healthy boundaries begin with understanding your own values. If you don't know what matters most to you, it becomes impossible to protect it. Think of your time, your peace of mind, your emotional well-being, and your personal goals as valuable resources. Just as you would protect something precious from being damaged or stolen, you must also protect the things that contribute to your growth and happiness. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They are about taking responsibility for your own choices and deciding how you will respond to situations that do not align with your values. One of the most powerful words you can learn is no. It is a simple word, yet for many people it feels incredibly difficult to say. They worry that others will become disappointed, upset, or distant. But every meaningful yes requires the courage to say no to something else. If you say yes to every request, every invitation, and every expectation, you eventually say no to your own priorities. Time is limited, energy is limited, and attention is limited. Choosing where to invest them wisely is not selfish. It is responsible. Strong boundaries also create healthier relationships because they eliminate uncertainty. People know where they stand with you. They understand your expectations because you communicate them with honesty and respect. Instead of allowing frustration to build in silence, you address problems calmly before they become larger conflicts. This kind of communication strengthens trust because it is built on truth rather than assumptions. Relationships flourish when both people feel respected, heard, and free to express themselves without fear. Many people believe that setting boundaries will push others away. The opposite is often true. Healthy boundaries attract people who value honesty and mutual respect, while naturally creating distance from relationships built on manipulation or control. Not everyone will appreciate your boundaries, especially those who benefited when you had none. But someone else's discomfort does not mean your boundary is wrong. It simply reveals that the relationship is changing, and sometimes change is necessary for growth. Another important aspect of boundaries is protecting your emotional peace. Every day you encounter opinions, criticism, negativity, and expectations from the world around you. If you allow every comment to define your mood or every criticism to determine your confidence, you give away control of your emotional well-being. Healthy boundaries remind you that you cannot control what others say or do, but you can control how much influence you allow those things to have over your life. Protecting your peace is not about avoiding responsibility. It is about refusing to let unnecessary negativity consume your energy. Boundaries also require consistency. It is easy to establish a boundary once. It is much more difficult to maintain it over time. People often test the limits you set, not always out of bad intentions, but because they are learning what has changed. This is where inner strength becomes essential. Consistency communicates that your values are not temporary preferences. They are lasting commitments. Every time you honor your own boundary, you reinforce your self-respect and strengthen your confidence. One of the greatest benefits of healthy boundaries is that they create space for genuine love and respect to grow. Relationships built on fear, obligation, or constant sacrifice eventually become unhealthy, because one person carries the weight of keeping everything together. Healthy relationships, however, are partnerships where both individuals contribute, communicate honestly, and respect each other's individuality. Love is strongest when it is freely given, not when it is demanded or earned through self-neglect. It is also important to recognize that boundaries are not only about saying no to other people. Sometimes they mean saying no to habits that hold you back, to negative self-talk that damages your confidence, or to environments that no longer support your growth. Every boundary you establish is a declaration that your future matters more than temporary or comfort. Growth often requires leaving behind what feels familiar in order to embrace what is healthy. In the end, healthy boundaries are not barriers that keep people away. They are foundations that support stronger, more authentic relationships. They allow you to love without losing yourself, to serve others without neglecting your own well-being, and to pursue your purpose without being distracted by every expectation placed upon you. When you value your own time, your own peace, and your own dignity, you naturally encourage others to do the same. That quiet confidence, rooted in self-respect and guided by clear boundaries, is one of the most powerful expressions of inner strength. It creates relationships based on trust instead of fear, respect instead of obligation, and genuine connection instead of constant compromise. At the heart of every meaningful relationship lies one quality that can never be manufactured, copied, or sustained through pretense: authenticity. In a world that constantly encourages people to create perfect images, authenticity has become increasingly rare. Many individuals spend years trying to become the version of themselves they believe others will admire. They carefully choose their words, hide their imperfections, and wear emotional masks to avoid rejection. Yet the irony is that the more we pretend to be someone else, the more disconnected we become from ourselves and from the people around us. Real connection begins the moment we have the courage to be genuine. Authenticity is not about revealing every thought that enters your mind or refusing to grow as a person. It is about allowing your actions, values, and character to align with who you truly are. It means that the person people meet in public is the same person who exists in private. There is no exhausting performance to maintain because you are not living to satisfy someone else's expectations. Instead, you are guided by principles that remain steady regardless of who is watching. One of the greatest freedoms in life comes when you stop chasing approval. As long as your happiness depends on being accepted by everyone, you will constantly change your behavior to fit different situations. You will say what people want to hear instead of what you genuinely believe. You will make decisions based on fear instead of conviction. But the truth is simple. You can spend your entire life trying to please everyone and still disappoint someone. Authenticity accepts that reality. It understands that respect is more valuable than popularity, and that being true to your values matters more than temporary applause. Think about the people who have left a lasting impression on your life. They were probably not perfect. They made mistakes, admitted when they were wrong, and continued learning along the way. What made them memorable was their honesty. You always knew where they stood, because their words matched their actions. They did not pretend to know everything, or act like they never struggled. Their openness created trust, because people could sense they were real. Authenticity also requires vulnerability. This is often misunderstood as weakness, but vulnerability is actually one of the greatest expressions of courage. It takes strength to admit you do not have every answer. It takes confidence to acknowledge your mistakes without allowing them to define your main identity. It takes maturity to ask for help when you need it. People are naturally drawn to those who are honest about their humanity because it reminds them they do not have to be perfect either. Many people fear vulnerability because they believe it gives others the power to hurt them. While openness always carries some risk, it is also the foundation of every meaningful relationship. Trust cannot exist where people are constantly hiding behind masks. Real friendships, healthy partnerships, and inspiring leadership all begin when someone is willing to be seen as they truly are. Authenticity creates safety because it invites others to lower their own defenses as well. Another important aspect of authenticity is consistency. It is easy to appear genuine for a few moments, but true authenticity is revealed over time. It shows itself in the small decisions you make when no one is paying attention. It is reflected in the promises you keep, the respect you show to people who cannot benefit you, and the integrity you maintain even when compromising would be easier. Character is not built through grand gestures. It is shaped by ordinary choices repeated consistently over many years. Authenticity also protects you from the endless cycle of comparison. When you become comfortable with who you are, you stop measuring your worth against someone else's achievements, appearance, or popularity. Instead of competing for attention, you begin celebrating individuality. You realize that your unique experiences, strengths, and perspectives are not flaws to hide but gifts to develop. Confidence grows because you are no longer trying to imitate another person's journey. You are committed to becoming the best version of yourself. This does not mean authenticity rejects growth. In fact, authentic people are often the most committed to personal development. They understand that becoming your true self is a lifelong process. They remain curious, open to feedback, and willing to learn because their identity is not threatened by improvement. They know that changing harmful habits does not make them less authentic. It allows them to live more fully according to the values they already believe in. When authenticity becomes your foundation, your relationships begin to change. You attract people who appreciate you for who you truly are, rather than for the image you created. Conversations become deeper because they are built on honesty instead of performance. Trust grows because your actions consistently match your words. Even disagreements become healthier because they are handled with sincerity rather than manipulation. Authenticity may not attract everyone, but it attracts the right people. The ones who value not character over appearance and truth over illusion. In the end, the most powerful impression you can leave on another person is not perfection. It is authenticity. Long after people forget what you wore, what you owned, or how impressive you appeared, they will remember how genuine you were. They will remember your kindness, your integrity, your humility, and your courage to remain true to yourself even when it was difficult. That is the kind of influence that endures. It is quiet, steady, and deeply meaningful. Because the strongest connections are never built on pretending to be someone else. They are built on the confidence to become fully and unapologetically yourself, allowing your character, your values, and your purpose to speak louder than any carefully crafted image ever could.